Hey guys, Uncommon Ramen here. Today it's obvious that we're taking a look at the Big Damn Crate from Broken Token. This is the standalone organizer for the Firefly the game, and it does actually hold everything. We're gonna take a look at what it looks like in here, and I will be actually doing a video or continuing the video after I have stained it, which I will be using some cherry gel stain by Minwax. This is the brand that they suggested at Broken Token, so we're going with the cherry. They did the mahogany. I wanted something a little bit lighter, so we're gonna go with the gel stain, cherry gel stain. And then I will do a video of it fully after the stain has dried. And then finally we will be lacquering it. This is the spray lacquer that they also suggested from Deft. I chose gloss. They have a matte version as well. I want mine to be shiny, so we went with Deft. That is, again, the brand that they suggested. I ended up with 800 grit sandpaper. They suggest in the video 600 grit. I could not find 600 grit, so I'm hoping that this works. Really, it's just to sand down the lacquer and then redo it, so I think this will be fine. Not really worried. But let's take a quick look at what we've got here. I'm sorry for all the shakiness. I'm not actually using the stand because this box is gigantic and there's no way to catch it with the stand. So yeah, this is the lid. I'm going to turn it a little bit. There we go. Get a full view. It is very large, and it is much thicker than any of the Broken Token inserts, and I guess it should be because it is the outer part of the box. We have the acrylic tops that go onto the token organizers, so very cool. Some little feet for the bottom of the box so that we don't scuff it up or scuff up any surface that it's on. I'm assuming this here is this is the instructions. I'm probably personally going to be using the video to go through this. If you haven't had a chance, you should check out the Broken Token video if you have one of these, because it is actually really good at going through how to build this. Inserts for days. Gotta be really careful with these because I don't want them to break out of their thing before I stain them. But yeah, there's a lot in here, as you can plainly see. Just sheet after sheet of just fun stuff. I can't wait to have this built. I was going to do a felt lining on the inside of the box, and last minute I chose to nix that idea, only because I think that the felt lining might add a few millimeters of thickness that could make it harder to close the box in the end. So I chose at the last minute not to do the felt lining and just go with the lacquer. Oh no, that one already came out. Well, that's gonna be difficult. Well, I'm not gonna move that because I can already see some possible damage. But anyway, this is literally only part. It looks like half of what's in there. There's a lot of pieces in here. Yeah, so I'll definitely be showing you what it looks like after it's stained, and then we'll follow up by a video of it assembled and then lacquered. Let me know what you think. Hey guys, I just wanted to show you what it looks like. This is the Big Dam Crate again. This is what it looks like after it's been stained. Again, I chose a pine stain, so it's a much lighter stain than what they used in the video for the Broken Token official setup. Show you what I used really quick here. I chose, they suggest Minwax gel stain, just like this. So I went ahead and grabbed exactly what they chose. And yeah, there's the cherry. Did I say cherry? I think I said cherry. Actually can't remember what I said. But anyway, yeah, it's a cherry stain. I didn't want to go with the darker mahogany. And I'm also going to show you, this is the lacquer that I'll be using as a spray lacquer. It's the same thing that they suggest in their video, Deft. I chose gloss. I want it to be shiny. So yeah, this is the lacquer I'll be using. I don't remember if I went over that in the original video. So, as you can see, I've already assembled most of the here. I am using Gorilla wood glue. It's a fairly simple process. I will say though that the staining process was a huge pain in the butt. I expected it to be just in general a very simple process. This was with the number of sheets that they give you, not including the lid and the bottom. It was quite a process. It took, I think, 2 full days for me to get it all stained. Granted, this is assuming that I don't have a huge amount of free time, which, you know, between work I really don't. But yeah, I'll show you another video later, or obviously I'll bring the video back up when I have it fully assembled, and then when I have it fully lacquered, and then again when I have it with all the pieces in it. Some quick things that I want to go over. So when you're staining, one thing I learned very quickly is to make sure that you use a very conservative amount of stain, because it is double-sided, and the stain does tend to leak through where the laser cut is, and including the little holes right here. And if you use a generous amount, you can almost guarantee it's going to leak through, which means you're going to be constantly flipping it to try and get it spread before it dries. And then you're going to constantly be cleaning up your work area as well to make sure it doesn't mess up the other side. It's a big pain in the butt. So be sure to use a very conservative amount, just enough to get that stain color that you're looking for. And also, big thing, make sure you have a work surface to work with. I ended up having to use a plastic bag. I ended up choosing a Target bag. It was a rather large one, and honestly, even that was a pain, constantly having to clean it and whatnot. Because you only really have to be staining the pieces, it would be beneficial that you leave parts unstained, as you can see right here, so that when you've taken your gloves off, you can actually pick up the frame without getting stain on your fingers. And this is something I also learned. So those of you who have OCD like me
who need to absolutely do it, otherwise it drives you crazy. I honestly would just get through it. Honestly, it'll be worth it to you not to stain the full thing, because you don't need to stain the frame. You're just gonna end up throwing it away. I do suggest wearing gloves. They did say that in the video. The gel stain is very sticky, and I did at one point in time, just to finish one frame, stain without gloves on, and it was a pain to take off. So, unless of course you have orange soap or whatever that scrub soap is, I really suggest wearing gloves. And then, last but not least, they suggest that you use painter's rags, or there was one other suggestion that they made. I obviously went with the painter's rags. I really do not suggest using these. If you'll notice, if I bring it up close, you can see that it's got loose fibers and loose bits here and there. And you can see actually right there on the edge, that's a perfect example of just a bunch of loose fibers. When you are staining, you're basically just rubbing the stain onto the wood back and forth, which causes friction. And when you build up that friction, it takes those loose threads and it builds it into one like small area, like a ball, and just comes out onto the wood once in a while, and you have just this ball of loose fibers sitting there. It's first off, you will have to go back over the finish when that happens, and it's a pain in the butt to just keep cleaning up. So I would suggest literally anything else that you could use for staining, because this was just a mistake. It is cheaper to get, I think, because I got, I think, 2 dozen of these for $4. Totally not worth it. Totally not worth it. I do not suggest it. I know they suggested in the video, and most of their suggestions were spot on, but I definitely don't suggest it. Also, I used a paintbrush to, once I finished putting the stain on with the rag, to go over one last time to give it an even looking coat. I think that worked out really well. You can choose to not do it if you want. It doesn't matter. It worked out really well for me. And lastly, when applying the glue, they mention like a tissue or something to wipe away the excess glue. I ended up using Q-tips because it got into some of these deeper parts really easily. And yeah, as you can see, there's no buildup of glue anywhere. So Q-tips worked for me. Whatever works for you, honestly. It's really your box. I did decide not to do the felt inlay, only because I don't know how much that's going to end up raising the bottom out of the box, and I really just don't want to deal with it. So again, I will be back when I have it fully assembled, and then finally lacquered and with the components in it. So stay tuned. Hey guys, back again for one of the final parts. I still haven't lacquered this thing fully yet. The top is is drying right now. I still have to do the sides and the bottom of the box. But as you can see, when I was inserting this piece here, probably because of, I don't know, some discrepancies on my end, it actually pushed apart the box a little bit, so I'm in the process of re-gluing this side. So when this is finished, I'll go ahead and, take this out there and lacquer it. But everything is assembled, so we'll take a look. I did end up sleeving everything so that I could see what it would look like. Plus, I think it fits infinitely better with the sleeves on, so that's cool. So this is the Aim to Misbehave, Meridian, and the Alliance alerts. So that's pretty cool. This is specifically built for the Alliance alerts. So when they brought out, I think it's the Bounty Hunters and Pirates expansion, but you'll see that they have these little slots on the top here so that you can just kind of put the cards in, just kind of leave them like that. And because these little inserts here are slanted backward, these cards will stay in with no problem at all, which is also really nice, especially for like a big deck like this, Aim to Misbehave. So, and there's 2 discards here. You'll see one is for the Meridian deck and one is for the Aim to Misbehave deck, just simply because the deck was so big that they didn't have room for the discard to be directly underneath it. And I mean, you can see right here, these boxes were meant to be stacked, so if you're working with an extremely limited space, they do stack on top of each other, as well as just sit side by side by themselves, and they just kind of slide right in. So that's the oh, that's the wrong one anyway. Wrong place for that guy. So he just kind of slides right in the back right there, and they fit really snugly in here. This is the insert here for the rim space, alliance space, and border space decks for when you're flying through. This neat little handle can be used to carry it and just kind of slide it in its place. And then like I said, these are all the different decks, and they just sort of slip right in. So that's pretty cool. This is one of my favorites right here, the token box. They give you 2 of these. I was able to split my tokens in half. The reason they give you 2 is so that you can have one on one side of the table and the other on the other side, because if you have played this game, you know it's a very large game. The map is huge, and if it was just one centralized box of tokens, you'd have people reaching across the table just to get to the tokens. And the reason I really love this thing is because it's acrylic lid, which is super cool, and it just kind of slides in and locks right there, so it won't come out unless you really want it out. And then they have a tab right here for the acrylic lid to line up with, so that it doesn't flip up the other way either. So that's pretty cool. And these guys kind of just slide in right here. I would put it in. I don't think it'll fit because I have the clamp back there, but once the clamp's out, they just kind of slide into that little space over there. So that's pretty cool. And there's 2, like I said, one for table. Then we have these little guys right here. They basically hold the ships. There is enough room. You can see right here. There is enough room for 3 more ships. I haven't filled all the spaces. So if they have expansions, we'll definitely have room for the ships. I don't think we'll have room for any more cards. So hopefully they don't add more decks. But, you know, I think that's pretty cool. The track here holds them in pretty well too. So unless you really want it out, it's not going to come out. So I think that's pretty cool. Just locks in place like that. And just as a demonstration, yeah, that's not coming out. And then this little compartment right here, which is actually a compartment, is where all the dice go. In the pre-built one, the one that they only made 500 of, which obviously I didn't get, this top was acrylic. So I'm kind of sad that I didn't get an acrylic top for this, but also at the same time, it's kind of like, whatever. I'll get over it. So yeah, and these guys just kind of slide in over here Depth perception bad. There we go. You kind of slide in right there. And it's really easy to pull them out. You just take the handle, pop it up. That's pretty cool. And yeah, there's two of them. Sorry with the camera, I'm bad with it. Anyway, yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then, of course, we have the Corvette, the Alliance ship, and then the Reavers. Another little ship holder. It's the same thing. Unless you really want these ships out, they're not coming out. So I think that's really... They did a really good job on that. Then they have the two front-facing compartments, which is going to be your money. This tray is easily on the top of my favorites with the token tray, because it separates out the money. And honestly, especially if you're trying to keep your money in better condition, because it's going to be handled a lot, having this is really nice. Just really well thought out. And these guys just slide in. Sorry, my depth perception with this camera is really bad, but just slide in right there in the front. There's another one specifically for the heroes, the ship upgrades that you start with, your story cards that basically tell you how to build the game, your first person, or well, actually, before I go into that, the two cards that are always out during the game, and then if I can get this guy out, the first player token with the little broken token, palm tree and grass, so that it stands, which I think is super cool as well. And again, if you got the one that was pre-built, pre-stained, everything done for you, I think it even had a felt inlay. This piece was acrylic. It was green acrylic. So I'm not special. I had to buy mine and build it and stain it myself and whatnot, and decided not to go with the felt inlay because this thing was a pain in the butt to build and stain and everything. You could chalk it up to laziness, I guess. But that just slides in the front like that. Very little play, so it's not going anywhere. Once all of this is in here, you'll see that the player boards fit directly on top of this area with no problem at all. The boxes and the cards are propping it up. I sleeved my cards with Fantasy Flight sleeves, which means that the top part of the sleeve actually goes a little bit past the where the divider kind of ends, and the player boards are supposed to lay on top of these dividers as support. So in my game, they're actually laying on top of the top part of the sleeves, which does take away a little tiny amount of room, but I still managed to fit it all in just fine, so I don't think it's a big deal. And after seeing that, my previous comment about the felt inlay is kind of moot. You probably still could go out and get that felt inlay and still be able to fit everything. That being said, if you do use Ultra Pro sleeves, they're a little bit more expensive, but I'm pretty sure they fit closer to the top of the card, which means that the player board should be resting on the top of the dividers themselves and not actually the sleeves. Having it rest on top of the sleeves really isn't going to damage them because the boards aren't that heavy, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's just something I wanted to point out, that Fantasy Flight sleeves are a bit longer. Really quickly, I wanted to show you something else that I think is cool. So I'm going to go ahead and put these ship trays back into the box because I want to show something that I think is really important about this box. If you'll notice right here, the piece is actually curved for basically a cylinder, and that's because they did take into consideration the game mat, the whole damn verse game mat, and you can see that it just fits right in there directly on top of it, and more importantly than anything, it fits perfectly fine. There's no discrepancy for room here. And I guess having that in there, you don't have to have the player boards. I personally would keep the player boards in there just simply because it keeps the cards secured from moving around, should the box end up upside down for any reason. But like I said, you don't have to bring them with you. It kind of eliminates the need for that, which gives you a little bit more headroom on the top. I still carry the boards around just in case maybe I'm only going to play, the core game and not any of the expansions, or maybe I'm just going to play, 1 or 2 expansions. I just think that it's very, very cool that they took into consideration the the whole damn verse mat, and more importantly, that they took it into consideration inside the tube that it comes in, and not, just outside, so that you'd have to get rid of the tube. So I think that's really cool. Just something neat. When I have the box fully lacquered and I have the box fully repaired, it's not like it's destroyed. It's just I tried to put this insert in way too early and it pushed, I guess, not dry glue out, and now I have to kind of glue it back in, but this time I'm going to use a clamp to make sure that it stays pushed in. But yeah, once that's done, I'll lacquer it, and then I'll do one last video showing the full lacquered version with everything inside, and I'll take it all out so you can see that. And then one last thing, they provided little feet for the bottom. So if you're like me and you do end up staining and lacquering it, you don't end up damaging the surface on the bottom, sliding it across the table, or sliding it across any surface, I guess. You'll have these little feet that you can attach to the bottom. So that'll be the final step. I'll make sure those are on before I do the video. Hey guys, Uncommon Ramen with the final video here of the big damn crate. This is after it has been fully lacquered. I'll show you the outside of the box in more detail once I get it all opened up and everything, but you can kind of see, if you look closely, all of the sheen across it. So definitely lacquered well. Like I said, I'll get more of a view of this once I get it fully unpacked, but this is it. This is the final project. We'll look up here. So this is a pain in the butt. This is probably the biggest broken token that I've put together, especially considering most of the broken tokens that I've done were just inserts. Actually, all of them were just inserts. So this was quite the project, but I was not content on leaving it the unstained color that it was. I wanted something to look. I wanted it to look like there was some love put into this. So definitely thanks to Broken Token for the video showing how to stain it and whatnot. Learned a lot of new things putting this thing together. When I was putting it together, I didn't use a clamp, or actually any clamps, because I didn't own any. And when I was getting the main inside insert into the outside box, it proved to be quite a challenge. I ended up pushing apart the hinges over here and then having to re-glue and breaking down and actually getting a clamp just so I could make sure that it's glued in correctly and didn't leave any gaps. If you look closely here, tried to make sure there was no gaps, as opposed to like looking up here. I don't know if you can see right in there, but there's definitely some gaps in here. But the glue did set, so I'm not going to worry about this unless the glue breaks. I also was under the impression that the wood glue would be a lot stronger than it was, but I guess that's I guess that was my mistake. But yeah, doing the lacquer probably was the easiest part, including putting it together and whatnot. The lacquer was just a simple spray it across, let it dry, sand it down a little bit, spray it across, let it dry. And this finish is after 3 passes, so I lacquered each side 3 times, sanded each side 2 times. So yeah, it looks pretty awesome to me. I'm going to crack it open real quick so that we can look at what it looks like on the inside. Nothing special there. I'm pretty sure I did the video already. Or I mean, I did the recording already of the inside after I had finished assembling it, but you never know. I'm going to go ahead and try and put the camera down here while I take the top off. Oh no! Well, that was unfortunate. Hopefully it stays. All right. Sorry about that quick blackout. Phone fell over. So you can see right here, the top. See if I can get a better view of this sides with the lacquer. Not really. Well, like I said, I'll put it back together so you can see. But the inside I didn't lacquer, so you can kind of see how it has this like matte look to it and very little sheen, as opposed to the outside where you got that nice shine going on. I don't know if you can catch that in the video, but you can kind of see a reflection a little bit of the stuff around, whereas on the inside, I guess there is kind of a sheen in there, but that's just the natural stain in wood. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, this is what it looks like with everything inside. I'm pretty sure I did a recording this already. I have everything there is for this game, including the promos. So it has legitimately everything in it. And as you can see, it fits together really well. You can see that the inserts themselves have plenty of room to move, and yet it's been very well designed to fit pretty much everything. And I have all the rule books sitting in here. There's plenty of room for all of that. There were a couple times where I stood this on its side, and when I opened it, everything was still in place. So you can even stand it on its side, and you won't have to worry about anything shifting around. So all in all, very well designed, and a great upgrade to the actual box itself. I won't be getting rid of my actual box, as you can see, because I have a bad glare, but I'm getting the box slowly but surely autographed by each of the folks that played in Firefly. And And I should be getting Jewel State's autograph this year as well. So yeah, won't be getting rid of the original box. Probably going to put that on display. Hopefully be able to pass that down to my children. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Go ahead and take away all the rule books and everything so you can kind of see how everything fits in here. Just in case I didn't do a recording of it already. So this is where all the player boards are for each of the ships. Plenty of space for them, and there's actually, I would say, probably room for a couple more. I know that they have slots in the ship section for another 3 more ships just in case. Although, as far as cards are concerned, I don't know if they'll have room for all the cards. Who knows? Maybe they will. I mean, I guess if you look at it, there's plenty of room. These are the player boards, in case you don't have the whole damn verse mat. But it does have a place for the whole damn verse mat, right in here. So, pretty cool. And this is what it looks like when you just look at the inserts for the box itself, which I think is pretty cool. It just sits in there very well, and you can see how when it's put on its side, it'd be the same thing as having these things sitting on their side, designed specifically to do that, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, I love the token boxes, 2 of them, 1 for each side of the table, because like I said earlier, this is a gigantic game. It takes up a lot of room. If you don't have the right table for it, it's going to be a pain in the butt to set up. Although this will help alleviate it because these trays stack on top of each other and they control, you know, the space that's being taken up. And then you can kind of see in here where they have all the ships, and you see all the empty slots there. There's about 3 of them. Yeah. And then you can see that little curved area where the whole damn first mat sits, because they took that into effect, or into consideration. One of my favorite trays here, holding the money. I just think that was a really great idea. Makes it really easy for the banker. So yeah, don't want to go into too much detail. Like I said, it was already covered in a previous recording. I do want to go ahead and look at the bottom so you can kind of see the lacquer on that side. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the video real quick so I can take out all the inserts, and then I will bring it back up. Alright, so this is a really quick look. You can see based off the light there how it looks with the lacquer on it. And I know if you look on the inside, you got that same kind of natural sheen to it, but this is definitely a glossier sheen. So that's the sides, and if we look really closely here, we got that same sheen. It managed to get inside to where the broken token symbol is and everything, which I think is pretty cool. So, very nice. And then of course, the bottom, we have that same kind of look. And you'll see, this is what it looks like with the feet put on it. They provided these feet with the insert, so you know, when you get it up on the shelf, it doesn't scratch the surface. So all in all, really impressed with what they did here. Quick note, when I received this, I actually only received 1 acrylic lid from at the very beginning, and I contacted them to let them know, and it was a seamless process. It didn't even they asked me which insert it was, and then within a day or two, shipping notice was made that they were shipping me the new acrylic lid, and in a matter of time, I had the second acrylic lid. Normally, it comes with the two, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. But like I said, really impressed at how they thought of everything, and they just did a really efficient job. One final detail here, I don't know if you can see it here, but if you can look closely enough, the goal / warrant inscription here, the A kind of didn't get its full inscription, and we'll show you. There you go. So that's what it should look like, but alas, you can't win them all. So that was, aside from, I guess, user error and not having the proper facilities or the proper tools, that was the only real discrepancy I had with the product, besides also not having the second acrylic lid, which they remedied very quickly. Putting this together was a blast, and at the same time a big pain in the butt. You can tell earlier in the recordings, there's certain suggestions I'll make. A little recap on that: don't use painter's cloths when you're staining this. They suggest it, but the fuzz gets everywhere, and it's just, honestly, it's not. I don't suggest it. I'm sure there's a better way to do it. I did use a paintbrush to even out the stain once it had been fully applied, so that's something I do suggest, and they don't mention in the video. What else? Oh, rubber mallet to make sure the pieces are fitting in correctly, because that is one of the biggest reasons why this insert, while I was putting it into the box, pushed out the edges here, because it had, I didn't have a rubber mallet with me, and I had assumed that it would fit well, and that's what you get for assuming. When you're lacquering, I really do suggest the Deft, which is what they use, because it only takes 30 minutes to dry and you can really move on. It makes it a really quick process. I finished the whole process, I think 4.5 hours maybe. I can't remember exactly what it was, but you can do the math. Like I said, 3 passes, 30 minutes each, and then including the sanding. So, I don't know, maybe 35 minutes each. And it didn't even take 5 minutes to sand. You shouldn't be spending 5 minutes sanding this. Like, you go over it really quick to get the scoring and the smooth finish, and then you lacquer over it again. Because otherwise you're just going to sand off the lacquer. There was some things I wanted to go over really quick that happened after I had built the box, and this is just kind of something you got to pay attention to. Be really careful. As you can see right here, the wood has just chipped away, and I'm not too worried about this. If this game gets constant play, the box itself is going to slowly but surely get wear and tear, so that to me is just an indication of that wear and tear. But it's on that. There's a piece on the lid that also has a little bit of a tear away. So, just be really careful. It is wood, and more importantly, it's just, like you can see right here, some sort of layered particle board. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Yeah, you can see right there. It's like a plywood or a layered particle board of some sort. So it's not the highest quality wood that you can be using. So you're bound to get a little bit of edge damage as you go. And then one last thing, let me see if I can find it on here. when I was lacquering and sanding, I came on to a point where the lid fit better than the bottom did, and so when I sanded, it's right here, you can see where I actually sanded off not only the lacquer, but I also ended up sanding off the finish. I wish I could, oh there we go, get focused. So I ended up sanding off not only the lacquer but also the finish, but like I said, to me that's not a big deal. It's very small, hardly noticeable, and more importantly, it's going to happen with Boxware eventually if this thing gets played. If you can see really closely there, you can see these little fibers hanging off. Those fibers are from the stupid painter's cloth. So like I said, I really don't suggest it. That they're, not only does it leave those damn fibers on there, but it's really hard to get them off. So that's just a really great example right there of why I don't suggest the damn painter's cloths. But short of that, this was a very interesting project. Biggest thing I've ever taken on as far as an organizer for a game, and to me, aside from these really tiny details, it actually turned out pretty awesome. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that I might have done things a little too hard. Maybe I should have done, maybe there was something easier I could have done. Yeah, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. Going to be doing tons of videos on board games, and probably going to put some spotlights on other Broken Token organizers that I get throughout the year. So yeah, take a look. Alright, that is the video for the staining, assembling, and lacquering of the Broken Token Big Damn Crate, which is compatible with the Firefly the game. Cool. Peace.